The family doesn't want the freaking money, they want your time. They don't want the dimes, they want times with you.
Yeah, I think we're defining the role of father and husband, the role of the man in the family. I think, well, so all three of us are fathers, all three of us are husbands, and we're trying to navigate this. We're living in an unprecedented time, right? There's increased prices, there's inflationary pressure, there's temptation behind every corner. The algorithm has been weaponized against husbands and fathers. There's challenges that are facing our kids that have previous generations have never faced before. So I think we're asking the question, what are we supposed to do? How do we be good men? How do we fulfill our role as good fathers and good husbands? So maybe we need to define what is a good father, what is a good husband, and how do we get there? Jim, you and I are,
Right.
well, you're a good dad. And the reason I say that in sincerity is you were just telling me a moment ago that you really want to spend more time with your kids and you're questioning whether you're just working all the time and putting food on the table, so to speak, is enough. I think you have a hard desire to be the best father you can be. So, like, I think we're asking the question, we don't really know the answer.
So honestly, and it's just my most recent personal experience. I'm a very angry, mad, and fighting and working person in the family. That's all I do. And then if I get angry or mad, I just work more and get more angry and more mad and more fighting. And it's not good because nobody notices if there's anything different going on with you. First off, in the family. Second, that's all you're doing. And honestly, if you hate being angry and fighting and mad and working all the time, you can't expect anybody else to want to be around any of that crap because who wants to be around that all the time if that's all you're doing? And I I think I create a lot of my own problems. I'm my own worst enemy. Like I mess up stuff because I'm just so wound up all the time with everything. It's expensive. It's hard. I grew up with nothing. I grew up cold and hungry. I've had nothing. So I always worry about that instead of spending the time with the family or being present when there is a few minutes or a few hours or a day to half of a day, whatever it is to try to do something. I'm not there. I'm thinking of the next job, the next work, the next dollar to be made, the next business thing, the next stupid thing to do that no the family doesn't want the freaking money, they want your time. They don't want the dimes, they want times with you. They don't necessarily want you making money, they want to make some damn memories with you. If you're not there and you're always looking at providing and building and stressing out with that, you're never there. And then you're just lashing out and being mad and angry and sound like a no matter how much good or how much you build up for everybody, no matter what you do, houses, cars, properties, whatever it is that you're building and putting aside for the family to have next. They don't care about that. They prefer to really spend the time with you. So I'm trying to do the right thing, but I'm making everything worse by only focusing on the work and the profit and the making and the building and the getting and the trying and making money and not being present for anything. And I've
And
probably created more problems than actual solutions. And for being the person that's always like, oh yeah, if you want it better, be better. And all I'm doing is probably making it worse. I've had, I don't know, a number of epiphanies and revelations lately where I'm like, Jesus, I'm just a problem.
I'm wondering if this started in the Garden of Eden when God commissioned Adam to tend to the garden. I think there was a clear instruction to men, specifically Adam and his descendants, who were all descendants of, if you're a male, your job is to protect and provide for your people. And so I think this is the primary role that God has commissioned men to fulfill, to be providers and protectors, and for women to be nurturers and to be maternal. So I just feel like the feeling of the question that's being asked is being asked more so now than maybe in previous generations because of inflationary pressures, because life has gotten harder. I mean, I'm hearing Jim's heart cry. Like, I feel what Jim's feeling. Like, I remember being a little guy standing next to my mom at the grocery store, and she'd write out a check for $120 and leave with a basket full of groceries. Women had the option, The baby boomers, when they were in their 30s in the early 80s, had the option to stay at home. It was a option. Today, many families don't feel that's even an option anymore. So I'm thinking that this has always been the case, Jason. We're just feeling it more acutely because of economic inflationary pressure.
That's a very interesting point. I mean, I would agree with you. I think I've been saying for a long time that we live in a system where having a one parent working household is is very difficult. And if there is a one parent working household, we're not working 40 hours a week.
No,
I
it's
mean,
like 80
yeah,
more sometimes.
and you look at these kids coming out of college, and I mean, I've talked to them, and they're like, "Yeah, I have 3 jobs just to be able to pay for my apartment." I mean, that's the situation that we're in. So how do you then get married and be able to provide for a family with the current climate that is the economic climate that we have?
The world doesn't exist the way that it existed when we grew up. Jim and I are of just a few months apart. We're Xenials. We were born in 1981. I think Jim would agree with me that we grew up at a time where our parents could easily, pay bills, get groceries, take the vacation, and have time for being present, building relationships, building memories, not having to worry about the next dollar. I don't feel like we even have that choice anymore. I was just talking to a young man. He was in his mid 20s, professional soccer player. His name's Christian. He was telling me that only his professional sports player friends are the only ones that own homes. The idea of his other peers that do not play, he's got a friend in the NFL, he's got a friend in the MLB, he plays professional soccer. Those three are the only ones in his friend group that actually own homes. He said his peers, his other friends aren't even thinking about it. Not even thinking about it. It was a rite of passage in the late 70s, early 80s for baby boomers to buy their first home. That's no longer even an option. So I think we're having a spiritual conversation, but life has gotten hard. The dollar has lost, what, 97% of its value since Nixon took it off of the gold standard. We are chasing pennies now. We are not getting what for our work what we were getting before, and men are stressed out. Men are feeling that pressure, and we're losing our temper. I Jim and I were just having the conversation about we lost our temper this weekend, or in the last few days, and it's not because we don't love our wives. It's because we're working so hard for such little return, and in comparison to our fathers and our grandfathers, we're getting crumbs. We're getting pennies on the dollar from what they got. No longer is a hard day's work earning a wage that's fair.
Yeah, well, I grew up pretty poor and crappy, so I have some other bad habits about things too, and making sure because I honestly, if you ever grew up in the streets or anything, or homeless or not having anything, growing up poor and like having really bad times like that, you get older, you don't ever want to be cold or hungry again, and you overemphasize that and probably too much.
So to put this in perspective, $100,000 in 1990 today is the equivalent of 245,000. And so I think we see, and I think we could even look at this here, if we were to go like 2000, let's say 2010 to now, what is it worth? 2010 to now, 100,000 is 147,000 today. We're talking 15 years and 50,000, 50%. So we're seeing, and I think there's also this like gap in perception versus reality. We are seeing that there is a whole lot higher paying jobs, right? We see the minimum wage going up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we're like, oh, there's a lot more jobs at $70,000, $80,000 on the market right now. But how far does 70 or 80,000 get you? It doesn't get you the same length as it did back in 2010, back in 1990, back in 1970. I mean, if we throw 1970 in here, $100,000 in 1970 is $828,000 today. That is the difference in inflation that we have.
Yeah, and I think we just need to be more creative. Like, for example, we just bought some property in the San Luis Valley, and we're really excited about it as a family. And my son has shown interest in building, and we want to build an outhouse and a shower just to make things more comfortable when we stay on the property. So I'm inviting my son at 7 years old, like, come with me. We're going to go build this thing. So I think just be more practical and be more creative in how we can include our children in our day to day. And it also means being very intentional, like shutting it off. Like maybe we need to be more intentional about blocking off time, from 5 to 8. I'm just not going to work. I'm not going to do the thing. I'm going to, spend time with my daughter. I'm going to spend time with my son, and we're going to do X. We're going to do Y. So I think if you don't plan, you're planning to fail. And so we need to plan and time block and treat our family the way we would treat a business appointment or a client meeting or whatever it is that we find our hands to do.
Yeah, well, I've learned that right now, just you're never going to be done with everything. You're never going to be finished. There's always work. There's always stuff to do. Just make yourself some checkpoints is what I've learned recently. Whatever it is, all the bills are paid for the month. Go ahead and give yourself a day and some time with the family. All this is done, or you made a checkpoint that I'll put this together and build this up to this point, and I'll stop for a day or two. Just do some more of that. That'll make it better. I never really do that. I just go and go and go and think, oh, good, I have an hour. That's stupid. It's just a waste.
I think God gave us that pattern in Sabbath. In 6 days, he created the entire universe. On the seventh day, he said that was good and he rested. There was an intentionality behind rest. And that is the pattern. That is the example that we have for us. So I think we need to spend true Sabbath with obviously God, but with our family. What does that look like? That's shutting it down. I'm not perfect, but on Sunday, there is nothing scheduled work related. It is purely time with the family. It's, you know, lazy mornings. It's intentionality, intentional time with the kids. And it's, resting in that pattern of this is the Sabbath. This is the day that we rest. This is the day that we really just spend time with our people. I think we live in this American culture where there's so much priority and capital placed on productivity. Your value is derived from what you produce. And because you don't necessarily produce anything tangible or anything that's of value when you're resting, when you're spending time with family, that almost becomes a second priority. And that's wrong. I think we need to be following that pattern of rest and being intentional and spending time with our families.
I mean, does that include like the long list of things that you need to do around the house? I mean, I think part of the problem is we look at it and we're like, okay, like we're finally home, and now we're starting to check things off the list of what needs to be done around the house, and then we still end up with zero rest.
I think that's Saturday. And so I'm just having a practical conversation with you, Jason. I think Saturday, you're at home, it's a weekend, it's not a business day. That's the honey-do list. That's the, cutting the yard, cleaning out the garage, so that when Sunday turns around, that's truly the recreational rest day.
But I mean, that sounds good and stuff, and it can't necessarily be Sunday or Saturday. There are a lot of people, I work for myself. It's just endless. It never stops. You're responsible for everything. Unlike people that do it, there's people that have to work 2 or 3 jobs. It's not practical for it, but it's just get to its stop point. And if you're scheduled off from work, take a little bit of time. I mean, I usually look at people doing that as oh, look, just being lazy, not getting stuff done. And don't be lashing out either because you're so burned out and angry and mad. Don't be doing that. That's stupid too. That's a waste of time.
Well, I also think there's an element of faith in this. Yeah, like we look at this and we're like, how do we make this work? It's, life is complicated, life is busy, the dollar's lost a lot of value. I think it goes back to Matthew 6:33, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. I think that scripture guides us that if our heart priority is our family, God will bless that. And we don't know what that's going to look like. I think that requires us to put faith in the one who created all of this and say, I don't know how I'm going to make this work, but you, Lord, you know my heart, and I'm going to consecrate, you work Sundays, fine. Your Sabbath is Tuesday. We're not being dogmatic and religious here. We're just trying to communicate the principle of rest. Find that day of the week that's a Sabbath day for you that works with your schedule. Because if you don't prioritize that, your health is going to suffer, your relationships are going to suffer, and you're going to look up in 20, 30 years and be like, with regret, what did I do wrong? So it's important now, fathers, husbands, that we take the time to count the cost. We take the time to, in intentional prayer, cry out to God, Lord, how do I fulfill this role that you've given me? Because it's hard. And I think God will meet us there. And I think if we're open to that and we truly, test God in that, I think we'll be surprised.
There's another part with this too, is that like I know like we're from the era of don't be showing emotions, don't be being weak and this and that. Don't be soft, don't be sad, 'cause that's weakness. And then the goofiest thing is when you discover it's like don't be showing emotions, but hey, guess what anger is? It's just an emotion too, so you feel really stupid and counterproductive with a lot of the stuff you feel. You're like, wow, that's pretty subpar antics. I'm kind of an idiot. Definitely doing idiot stuff. But I think just take the time, make the memories. Don't worry, make the memories. You can always make more money, or you're gonna be what? You're gonna be alone with a bunch of stuff at best. It's not worth it. It's just stuff. You can always get stuff. It's harder to find love and affection and family and um people that care about you. It's much more valuable.
Yeah, I think the deception for fathers is that because we love our family so much, that we think that the only way to love them is to provide. But the other flip side of that token is our time. The present is the present. And so if we're swaying too much on the providing end and not enough on the time end, we're missing out on the blessing. Scripture says that children are a gift from the Lord. They're our greatest gift. They're our heritage and our legacy. And there's only this small window of time. We record at Jason's house, and his son John was sitting up front, and he comes up to me and he says, "I'm eating cereal out of a sand bucket." And just like the awesomeness of that, like just this pure innocent guy, like he's amazing. Like, and Jason has this window of time to just drink that up. It's a gift, and we can overlook that and be like, hey, that's great, sandbox, whatever. Like my son does this to me all the time. I got to go to X, I got to go to Y, and I'm already feeling it because my oldest is 12, and I'm already seeing that she's not that little girl that I had what felt like 5 minutes ago. So there is this window of opportunity that if we don't take advantage of it, we're going to miss it, and we're going to miss out on some of God's greatest gifts. So I think we're asking more questions than we're answering them, but I think this is questions that all fathers are asking. How do we live this out, and how do we balance out our calling?
So yesterday was my birthday, and I went and picked up my daughter and my niece, one of my nieces, and we went and watched a movie. Normally, if I watch a movie and it's not that good, we watched that Jurassic World movie or whatever it is, the new one, and it was just a nostalgic, money grabby play thing. Some stuff, give the medicine to the world, blah, 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 yada, yada, no character development, don't care. You didn't care about people living, you cared more about people dying. You're like, God, I hope he dies. Please kill him. Eat him. I want to see dinosaurs eat stuff.
I want to say,
But instead of being so, there's people talking in the theater. I don't get a lot of downtime, but I did things different. I slowed down. I asked the people behind me politely not to speak. I'm trying to communicate instead of just lashing out. I spent most of the day with my daughter and my niece, and I just did stuff. And my daughter said it was one of the
best day of her life.
best days she's had with me. And I'm like, we used to do stuff together all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday my son was like, "Let's play Legos," and my inclination initially was like, "Dude, I got to do the X, I got to do Y, I got to do Z," and that small still voice, whatever it was saying, "Dude, just sit down for however long it's gonna be, play the Legos, spend the time." And because when children invite us into play, I believe they're inviting us into their world. They don't know how to relate to us because they're children and we're adults. So an invitation to play with them is an invitation to have relationship and spend time with them. We're not going to have a conversation about geopolitics with my 7-year-old. We're going to build things with Legos. And so I think that we need to humble ourselves and sort of be intentional about entering into those spaces with those children, with where they're at, and realize that, like Jim said earlier, there's always going to be something to do. I just think we need to be more disciplined with our time. I think is what it boils down to.
We need to prioritize properly.
We need to
I,
be
I spent
yeah.
2 hours rebuilding skateboards with my daughter and my niece, and they thought that was super fun. And normally, yeah, I would have done the same thing. I got work to do. I got to go get this done. I got to go. I got to go leave. I got to get this. I got to do that. It's not the proper priorities, and it's your value's not what you bring material wise to your family. That's not the priority.
So to wrap this up, Aaron, because I mean we've gone in a lot of different directions here. To wrap it up, here's what I'm hearing. Rest is important. We need to make sure that we are not so busy that we miss the opportunity to create memories. And we need to check ourselves on a regular basis. I mean, did I miss anything?
No, I just would place more emphasis on prioritizing the things in life that matter. And the only thing I think that you might have missed is just having a little bit more faith that God, will be a Matthew 6:33 God, that if we seek the kingdom first, that if we put our families first, the provision stuff will follow. Like God will bless the deal, God will bless the business. God will show up when we seek first the kingdom of God because he promises us that all things will be added onto you. So definitely faith is a big part of that.
And just a little cap off with it. Look, none of us change till everything falls apart or gets crappy. Don't improve once you've messed everything up. Don't do that. That's the way most of us learn. Just take a look at it, look at yourself, think about it a little bit, and try to improve. Okay, it doesn't mean necessarily you got to change. It doesn't mean you got to change your goals or anything. Just improve with the way you're doing things in a better fashion. Proper priorities.
Well, this has been Faith, Family, Fitness, Freedom. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. on 100.7 The Word or online on YouTube or Rumble. Go check us out. Look up Full Armor Media Group. You can find this show and many more shows. Have a great day. God bless.
Peace.